Traveling the world can be an incredible experience, but some destinations come with extreme risks. In 2025, certain countries remain highly dangerous for tourists due to ongoing conflicts, political instability, crime, and terrorism. From war-torn zones to crime-ridden streets, these places present serious threats to foreign visitors. If you're planning your next adventure, make sure to stay informed and stay safe. Stay with me as we uncover the 10 most dangerous countries for tourists in 2025 and why you should think twice before visiting. While many destinations offer breathtaking landscapes and rich cultural experiences, some places remain too dangerous for travelers. Whether due to civil wars, high crime rates, or government restrictions, tourists in these countries face significant risks. In 2025, global travel warnings highlight several nations where visitors should proceed with extreme caution, or avoid entirely. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the top 10 most dangerous countries for tourists, what makes them unsafe, and what you need to know before considering travel to these high-risk zones. One, Afghanistan. The ongoing crisis. Afghanistan remains one of the most dangerous places on earth for tourists. The Taliban's rule has increased instability, with ongoing terrorist threats, kidnappings, and attacks on foreign nationals. The government has placed severe restrictions on freedoms, and with limited embassy support, visitors are highly vulnerable. The risk of militant activity and extremist attacks makes this a no-go zone for most travelers. 2. Syria, a nation in ruin. Syria continues to be a high-risk country due to its ongoing civil war and violent conflicts between multiple armed groups. Many areas remain under the control of militant organizations, and the government struggles to maintain security. Bombings, kidnappings, and clashes between factions make it an extremely unsafe destination. Even humanitarian workers and journalists face immense risks, and tourists are strongly discouraged from visiting. 3. Somalia, lawlessness and piracy. Somalia has long been known for its lawlessness and instability, with various factions controlling different regions. The presence of al-Shabaab militants, frequent terrorist attacks, and high rates of violent crime make this an extremely dangerous place for visitors. Additionally, piracy along the Somali coast remains a serious threat. Foreigners, particularly Westerners, are often targeted for kidnappings and ransom. 4. Venezuela, economic collapse and extreme crime. Venezuela's economic crisis has led to skyrocketing crime rates, food shortages, and political instability. Tourists often fall victim to armed robberies, kidnappings, and violent street crimes, even in major cities like Caracas. With law enforcement struggling to maintain order, criminals operate with near impunity. Many governments warn travelers to avoid Venezuela due to the high risk of violent crime and civil unrest. 5. Yemen, a devastating war zone. Yemen remains a war-torn nation with an ongoing conflict between government forces, rebels, and extremist groups. Foreigners are at high risk of being caught in crossfire, kidnapped by terrorist organizations, or targeted in attacks. Severe food shortages and a collapsing healthcare system add to the dangers, making travel to Yemen extremely risky. 6. Sudan, political chaos and armed conflict. Following a violent military coup and ongoing civil unrest, Sudan has become highly unstable. Frequent clashes between military factions and armed groups have resulted in high crime rates, violence, and political upheaval. Travelers face risks of armed robbery, abductions, and violent protests that often turn deadly. The situation remains unpredictable, making it one of the most dangerous places to visit in 2025. 7. South Sudan, war and ethnic violence. Despite its independence, South Sudan remains one of the most violent countries in the world. Ethnic conflicts, ongoing civil war, and severe poverty make it a dangerous destination. Crime is rampant, with armed groups targeting foreigners for kidnappings and robbery. With limited infrastructure and humanitarian crises, South Sudan remains a high-risk location for travelers. 8. North Korea, extreme government control. North Korea may not have the violent conflict seen in other countries on this list, but it remains one of the most unpredictable and restrictive places for foreign tourists. The government exercises extreme surveillance, and any action perceived as disrespectful to the regime can lead to imprisonment, forced labor, or even worse. Foreigners have been detained for minor infractions, and diplomatic relations with North Korea remain unstable, making any travel here extremely risky. 9. Haiti, gang violence and lawlessness. Haiti has seen a sharp increase in gang violence, kidnappings, and political instability. Entire neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince are controlled by heavily armed gangs, making travel extremely dangerous. Armed robberies, carjackings, and violent protests are common, and the lack of government control has led to near anarchy. Many international organizations warn against visiting Haiti due to the breakdown of law and order. 10. Central African Republic, a country in constant conflict. The Central African Republic, CAR, remains in turmoil, with ongoing battles between militia groups and government forces. Large areas of the country are controlled by armed groups, and attacks on civilians are frequent. Kidnappings, violence, and looting make it one of the least safe places for travelers. The lack of stable infrastructure and widespread poverty further adds to the dangers of visiting this war-torn nation. While travel can be exciting, safety should always come first. These countries pose extreme risks due to war, terrorism, crime, and political instability. If you're planning a trip abroad, always check travel advisories, understand the risks, and prioritize your safety. While some travelers seek adventure in high-risk areas, these destinations in 2025 should be approached with extreme caution, or avoided entirely. Have you ever visited a high-risk country? What's the most dangerous place you've traveled to? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more travel safety insights and global updates.